And that is indeed the Act 1 bad ending. You spend the entire time fucking up with everyone. You meet everyone, you fuck up. And then you die. Can't get much worse than that. This is why you should never say it can't get any worse, can it? It can always get worse. But yeah, that's it. That's everything. That is 100% completion of Katawa Shoujo. We have seen the ending where you die. You just die. You get depressed for a week and then you die. Drunk off whiskey on a roof, talking with a raving half-blind lunatic about the feminist conspiracy. Look at all those. I didn't notice it. I didn't point it out at the end of the last of Rin's route, but yeah, look, we've got all of the scene photos. Yeah. Library, 100%. Then the deep end. Share a manly picnic on the roof. And then if we check our gallery, there's the last one. Drunk off their ass. I'm gonna check something. There we go. Oh, yeah, it doesn't. So, I already showed it before, so we have everything. I do have to go and turn on my... There we go. And here we go. We have, right here, the final CG, the 100% completion. All of the girls we came to know and care about. Let me get those off so we can see it better. All of the girls we came to know and care about. I don't actually know who drew it, though. I've never... But it looks nice, doesn't it? I think it looks nice. I remember the time I got that for the first time. Very, very nice. It's a nice little memento. I still don't know really how to feel. That is, we don't have anything to do. We're done with everything. I guess what I can do a little bit is, we have all 6 of those. We have every single song. We have every single scene. So, I mean, I guess what we can do, we can talk a little bit more about all of the routes and, like, what there was. Obviously, the prologue, just the setup. You have Act 1, introduced to everyone. It's nice. It's nice how you get... The game obviously has its own, it's like, if you want to start out, here's a route for you. But I like how you have to kind of think a little bit more about the decisions you gotta go on. Because, you get all the same stuff until the where you have to decide, cut me and Lily some slack. I did my point. But Rin's path is the only one where you actually don't say... No, actually, Shizune, Rin and Shizune's. But yeah, so you have not a whole lot of variation in Act 1, as you can see by the amount of times I skipped. That's always a fun scene. And then like stuff gets more different in at the festival, because you get to see what Emmy is all about. Emmy starts you on the plan, or the exercise plan. Lily and Hanako's. Lily's, you help out with her. I think those are together. Or oh no, these are together. This is itself. This is Rin's. This is Shizune and Misha's. And they all get. I just have to think a little bit more about how I want to say it. But Act 1, when it comes to it, doesn't have the most sort of things you can think about and learn. It's just a real good introduction, and then it gets you onto the path. I mean, we get to see how even the little interactions, though, change how Hiseo ends up thinking. Because, honestly, in Clouds in My Head in the Deep End, it's pretty similar. You don't do much for the festival, but the company matters. And then you get the really, really cute moments at the end where Rin decides to where they fall asleep next to each other while sitting at the mural. But I want to go in order of the routes we cleared. So in Hanako's route, like I've always said, it was my first favorite route. It was the route I got without using a guide. I got the good end for that route without using a guide in my very first playthrough of Katawa Shoujo. So that it's a special one to me. But it going back through I've said it a lot. Going back through all these routes has really given me a better perspective, and I think I can talk about it a little bit. I've said it. I was dumb, young, and stupid when I first played this game. I hadn't done shit. I had done absolutely nothing. I think I was a high school freshman, maybe. I didn't know what the fuck about the world. I had just gotten out of middle school. I had just gotten into high school, realizing what that was all about. But now, we're past that. Multiple years past that. I have a new perspective. Because I'm not just living in the same town I grew up in with the same people I knew. I'm away from everybody that I grew up with. My family. Independence is a scary thing. It sounds weird, but it is. And I don't think that's wrong to say. But now that I have the experience of, I wish I had I wish I had played this game much earlier. Again, I wish I had replayed it freshman year of college. I wish I had, not back when I was a freshman, but it might have given me more perspective, because you can see it in the bad end. Hiseo's thing, the reason that ends up so badly, and he says it himself. He missed opportunities. He didn't talk to people enough. Obviously, if you miss opportunities to talk to people and do things, you're not gonna die. You're not gonna fall off a roof drunk. But you'll feel shitty. You'll feel alone. You will. And that basic message of, especially of Act 1, is talk to people. Go talk to people. Do things. Don't let fear of being in a new place or doubt about a new area you're in or nervousness about, in this case it was, I have this new condition that could kill me and I'm at a school of people who are disabled. Don't let nervousness about that shit mess you up. Go and do things. Go and talk to people. I know it's hard. It's hard now because of the fucking pandemic. Believe me, that's made shit terrible. But go and do it. Meet people. Talk to people. You might find something great. And if you don't, well, you tried. It's better to have tried than have done nothing. So, because like Hiseo did, you may not realize until you haven't done anything how shitty you feel about not doing anything. Because in that bad ending, Hiseo doesn't do shit. He joins the student council once and then tells them to piss off. Great way to burn bridges, that is. But yeah, it's a good example of life's too fucking short to have regrets. There's no other way to put it, really. Sure, it's a bit like in your face in that bad ending, you know. Oh, I didn't talk to anyone at my first week of school. I kind of was really awkward. Now I'm dead. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. But that shitty feeling happens. It 100% happens. We gotta talk on the Hanako route now. Hanako's is really interesting because, you know, I mean, we've all met people. I think we've all met people like Hanako, you know. Shy, nervous, detached, you know, just like, I mean, it was said in the first, like, felt like nobody was looking at her. Like, Hiseo was the only person who saw her. I think we've all met people like that. And, you know, I like Hiseo's development in this one because, you know, he goes about the whole thing. He's like, as he's like, just sees her more, he's not even really interacting much or talking, but just observing her more and getting to know her in little bits through her and through Lily as well. He finds out more and he becomes interested. And that feeling develops into, I want to protect this girl. But it's a very good, we can look through here, yeah, you know, just these small little things, you know, opening up to each other. This was the like that traumatic events, you know. I think Hiseo's feelings in this route are like, especially Act 3, are very real because, you know, I mean, I've never had somebody I have known have that kind of a panic attack in public like that, but I think I'm pretty sure I wouldn't know what the hell to do. Like, and like, I mean, that's what happens. But like, as it further developed, like, you know, he wants to know more about Hanako by the end of Act 2. In Act 3, he starts getting to know more, and then that feeling of wanting to protect Hanako happens more, or like develops more and more. But then, you know, you learn that's not always the way you should go about it. Like, it's important, like, that feeling, you know, you may feel like you have it. You have that right feeling, you know, like, this is what I should do. It's like, I care about this person, so I should do everything to, like, protect them. But it shows how easily those feelings can be, like, misread, and especially someone who already has, like, doubts about themselves. How easily it can be misconstrued. And so I think if you look at the good ending, and even the bad endings, the biggest thing is communicate. And I think even in the bad endings, the biggest thing is don't be avoid being so heavy-handed. someone like that, like needs that time to just needs that time to be by themselves. You can't go in and force things to happen just by Hiseo had great intentions. He wanted to make sure Hanako wasn't feeling bad because she had food and all that. But in the bad and neutral endings, he's heavy-handed. In the good ending, he leaves it be and he gets new perspective. And I think that's good that you get new perspective on situations. Hanako's ending is one that has it's simultaneously specific and a general lesson at the same time. But I think it's a really good one, and I think Hanako is a very well written character. And it's interesting to see how both she and Hiseo evolve. I don't think this is Hiseo's best evolution arc as a character in these routes, but it's a good one, and it's something about Hanako's route the first time around just really stuck out to me, and I was like, okay, I think I understand this one. I've had a strong understanding of that route since the first time I played it. I will fully admit that. I think, yeah, and then the biggest part about that route was the life on pause part, I think, as well. And Hiseo can definitely relate to that, because 4 months with nothing. Hanako had years with just nobody. So I think the symbolism of the final one being called adulthood is, they're basically trapped in older versions of themselves, and they had to break out of that, and they did that together. Just a last little note. And Lily, a lot different from Hanako's, because Lily, is that strong-willed. She knows what she wants. She's fully confident in herself when it comes to her disability. So you spend Act 2, just finding out more about Lily, and and then when Lily leaves, when someone leaves, you got to think, how do I someone you're used to being around, because Hiseo relied on Lily. I mean, didn't become apparent, said until Act 3, but if you look, it was apparent. There's a lot that Hiseo relied on Lily for, and then she was gone one day. So you step back, you evaluate that. You're what does this person mean to me? And then once Lily returns, the thing with Hanako happens, and you can see actually in this route, it's another way of how Hanako. You in this one, you're not heavy-handed as Hiseo. You're just there, and you're concerned, but you're not gonna try and pull her out anywhere. And you see how that works out, because at the end of this route, Hanako is more social. She's in the newspaper club. She goes on a trip. And then Lily returns after Hiseo has the time to think. So again, I think a big thing to think about from that is just be introspective. Introspection is a good thing. It hurts. Introspection sucks. It sucks to do. You have to really think about a lot of things, but it's important, and you can see it in this route, or in this act, because you have, because we are in Act 3, right? Yeah. So yeah, you have that time to think, and then when he comes back, he's so much more focused. He knows what he wants. He knows what he thinks about Lily, and then It's a little harder to think about these newer ones just because it's been so long. But you have what am I trying to think of here? I feel like Lily's is like it might actually be the route that has fewer things you can really. I mean, Lily's is the one that doesn't have a bad ending. Like Lily is like probably the most like stereotypical relationship out of them. You have it's like you talk, then you have your this relationship starts. There's a little bit of trouble, and you actually learn because like the problem actually comes more with Lily's character, because Lily is like the problem is just like that once we move on to Act 4, great relationship here. They they have their feelings. They confess them after it was spurred on by something terrible, because Lily got that feeling of Hiseo relied on Lily, but Hiseo also didn't want Lily to worry about him, and it's just coming to terms with those feelings, because you have to like balance those feelings. You can't just have the two extremes. Then the feeling, and then after the traumatic event, they have spurred on by the moment, and then they confront it. They come to terms with it, and they move on. I want to say this. I obviously cannot show the NSFW scenes on stream. However, if you go to the Katawa Shoujo wiki, you can read the text from those scenes. And I think it's a very good thing to do, because there's things in those scenes that do provide more insight. Rin's especially, I was thinking about it when I was getting the final CGs for that. Rin's especially, it's got something. It gives you more insight. Yeah, and then so after there, the you start learning more and more, and then things start going wrong because Lily's she's very, like I said, this is not like the most. I mean, Lily has a neutral ending, and it's just she moves away. But I think the turn into the good ending, so it really has things, because like it's another thing about introspection. The entire route, I think, has a whole theme of thinking about your relationships with people, how you're feeling, like sorting out your feelings is a big thing, because PCO is able to do that. And then it's a full-on movie moment. Of course, it probably would never happen like this in real life, especially not now with like good cell phones. But Hiseo realizes what he should do, and not only does he think about his own feelings, he thinks about Lily's feelings. He thinks about how that went down, and he's able to change things. So I think the two important things from this, think introspectively, but also empathetically. Think about what's happening for other people, instead of just, he notices at the end, he's like, I just always thought Lily was going to be there. I didn't think she would ever go away. I thought we were going to be fine together, and I could just keep relying on Lily, not realizing why that was a problem. And so it's important to just realize things like that. And then next we did Emmy. Emmy is very interesting. It doesn't start out as much, It's just like running partners. you learn about Emmy, and like she's got that focus. She's got that extreme focus. She has something she loves to do. Pain during and it's another one where this is like dropping by is where things change. Of course, they have that thing like we're close friends. Hiseo gets that same feeling he does in Hanako's route, though. Especially after that, because he's like, Emmy's troubled by things, and he wants to help her with that. But Emmy doesn't want help. So it's less of like, in Hanako's route, it's like dealing with someone who has their own self-doubt. But with Emmy, it's someone who is strong-willed and just doesn't think it's an issue. So there's the difference there. And then after that they both realize like it's the normal like we both have feelings for each other, and then they confess it. So into Act 3. There's a lot of very romantic in Act 3. Act 3 is very romantic, and then things go down. Because Emmy has her way of doing things. Hiseo has his way of doing things, and they conflict, obviously. But like Hiseo feels this thing where he has to help Emmy. I think the line itself, swoop in on your white charger. It's one of my favorite lines in this game. I think it's really impactful because like it shows that how resistant Emmy is to help, but also Hiseo's desire to help. Like it's not a bad thing to have. But as you can see when we move into Act 4 and the dinner as well. Because, you obviously get the bad ending if you go after Emmy and talk to her. Or you can get into the bad ending, so you can get back out of it. But the bad ending happens when you follow Emmy. So it's another thing about giving that person space. And then instead you talk to Emmy's mom. And you get that new perspective. You gain that perspective to learn more and about how you should go about it. So it's like don't always, I think another big lesson from this game is like don't try and do things full bore all the time. Go for it, like going for, it's like this is my way, I'm going to do it, I'm going to help this, I'm going to all of that. No. You have to think about how before you can do any of that, before you can try to help anyone with anything. Everyone's got their problems, of course. Obviously some of them are not as bad as I lost my dad in a car accident and my legs. I was burned in a fire. I have to choose between my family and my other relationships. My family that abandoned me, basically, to Japan to do business. Rin's thing of finding herself. Shizune's... I'm trying to think of what the major conflict in Shizune's was. I suppose Shizune's is dealing with competitiveness, just more very strong-willed. It's it's not always going to be a big problem like that, but even for those little problems, if you're going to help yourself, you're going to help someone else. It's always better to think about what you're going to do. And a big thing in Emmy's route is her mom is what helps out a lot. And with Hanako's route, which I think Emmy's and Hanako's are similar, talking to other people, support is huge. Because talking to Lily, talking to Emmy's mom, it's both how you get the perspective to actually handle the situation. So then after that, Hiseo leaves in the good route. Hiseo leaves the dinner. He has a couple days to think. He maybe spends a little bit too long, but a little bit too long maybe. But he's able to think of what he wants to say. So that's another thing, like giving yourself the time. Like not only the other person, like not only just distance for the other person after something like that. Time for yourself to think. And he's able to think it through. And he and Emmy talk. And it leads to Emmy he's finally able to take an approach that allows Emmy to open up. And, the final thing about Emmy and Hiseo is, live in the present. I don't know exactly how much I agree with the final part of that, just because, like, if I'm trying to remember exactly, I should just pull up the wiki. That's what I should have been doing instead of struggling through all this. Wiki. Here we go. Emmy. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Does this have the actual lists? Oh, here you go. Quick teeth. What was the last thing? Let's see what it was. Yeah, the thanks for sticking around. It's a thing that, it's not that, yeah. Where was it? I know it said it. Was it in the previous one? Oh, stay with me. Not tonight, or forever, because both of us know there's no such thing as forever. There's no time limit to a request, there's just the request. The favor. Can I do that? Can I stay with her? Yeah, it's just that, because it ends with, I don't know how long my heart will keep working, and I don't really know what I'll do after this year is over, apart from going to university. As long as Emmy's around, I think I'll be okay. I've managed to help her, and she's managed to help me. If we keep doing that, we'll be okay, I think. I'm not sure how much I fully go into the, live in the moment, don't have like a big plan for the future, but I think it is a decent, you can't dwell too much on the past, of course. You can't dwell too much on the past. You can't think too much about the future. You'll think yourself to death. You might stress yourself to death too. So just like, you can take it one day at a time. And if you have someone, like Emmy and Hiseo found each other, they help each other simultaneously. And I think that's really beautiful because, you have just helping each other, going day by day, thinking about how, no matter what, you have that. It's the most, I think Emmy's is the most, like, romantic one. Just with how the ending goes. Next was Shizune's Roots, which I view as, like, Shizune's route as, like, the starter route, basically. So yeah. Terminal's the bad one. Okay. Okay, here we go. The summon. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I'm just looking through the. Yeah. So with Shizune, you've got. We'll just scroll through this. You see the whole thing because he admits it at the end of Act 1. It was like, I think I'm falling in love with Shizune. I mean, it makes sense. She's the one he's had most contact with. And then it shows like you gotta put in effort. It's pretty simply showed it. Hiseo learning sign language for her. Advanced game theory is one of the most important scenes, I think, because it really does give such an outlook on how Shizune sees things. Let's see what I was looking. Yeah, so he starts learning sign language, of course. The Misha thing is the turning point. So that time without Misha, he has to rely on that sign language he knows. And that's how they really get closer. It's pretty kind of basic. And then, of course, Tanabata happens after Misha comes back. Misha leaves. We don't really know why Misha leaves. Maybe she and Shizune talked about it. Who knows? But then, Hiseo confesses. But yeah, I want to go back and look at advanced game theory. Because it has some, I think it has some amazing points about Shizune's character. Especially in the end. What is it? Let's see if I can find it. Nothing formulaic about her. So she talks about how... Because, we know Hanako's played chess with Lily. But, Shizune really feels that, she talks about how, her feelings are real, but her feelings for the game aren't real. So you see how Shizune thinks about stuff like that, Full bore. Full bore into everything, thinking about it. If you value something, you fight. Struggle is the proof of preciousness. Or you concede immediately, since it's so precious that it stops your thinking. The first is a passionate love. The second is a gentle love. I tried to fight her, chasing around her king and trying to bait her. I didn't succeed, though, because she stuck to only what would work. The trickiest moments was when she moved the fastest. That means she knew exactly how to deal with those situations. If you love chess that much, but you can't give it your all, it's because you love the memories attached to it, not the game. Due to that, you can't become friends over it. It's too precious to her to see as a tool for true competition. Due to that, you can't become friends over it. Not without words. That's a lot about Shizune there at the end there. You feel that way she thinks, Competition, no feelings attached. She just has this competition. And that's the big stumbling point with Shizune. The whole thing, she has to overcome that level of competitiveness. And because we've seen it, it drives people away. It drove Lily away. And then we can see how that would have happened. How she would drive to succeed and not care about emotions attached to anything when we meet her father. Go back to... Let's see, yeah, not much happened in Act 3, honestly. The start of Act 3 is really It's just there, like they started their relationship. They go to Shizune's house. You find a bit more about why Shizune's like that. Um, because of how her father acts. Um, and then at the end, you start with the stuff with Misha. I think Shizune's route might be it might be the weakest one. That's my admission. Um, but I still think it's got because yeah, you need to worry about because you have to deal with Shizune or Misha as well. Um, but I actually can't think of why. I mean, I think that the thing that might have set Misha off might be just the fact that Hiseo and Shizune are dating, but it's kind of a weak thing. It's kind of I think it's the most cliched. I still like the root; it's very memorable, and I think Act 4 really does redeem it. But Act 3 is a really weak point. Hasn't indicated anything's yeah. So you see and then when you get to Act 4, you find out more about because now that Misha's sad, Shizune. I mean, it's thinks of it more like a game, not like someone's emotions. So. And you can see how because and I mean the switch between the good and bad ending is pretty self-explanatory. Either you cheat or you don't. If you don't cheat, you get the good ending, which makes sense. I think also the good ending is kind of the saddest of the good endings because there's no knowledge of the future. Misha's gonna go off and do her own thing. She's gonna go be a translator. Hiseo never sets his own goals. You never know what Hiseo's gonna do. Shizune wants this grand dream of being a businesswoman and a philanthropist, but you don't know anything else. You don't know if they're gonna stay together. So it's I just kind of feel like it's flat. And then just the bad ending. It really does suck as a bad ending just because of how much that ending one sucks because Hiseo fucked up badly. Hiseo fucked up. But even Shizune, she's she feels like she's fucked up and Hiseo can't help her. Because I think she desire to beat everyone and she doesn't care about her relationships is how Shizune feels. And so she just distances herself. And it's not fun. Cuz what you made that one misstep for what? One night? And you don't even know what the hell's going to happen with Misha anymore? I feel like it's another one that's kind of hard to pin down a full message for. But maybe that's just me. Maybe people who are smarter than me and think better can come to a conclusion with that one. But I think it's got that really emotional one, and it's just kind of. So I'm just reading the comments on the page. Yeah, because in the end, you see that Shizune changes. She's no longer that huge on the competition. She realizes that and you help her to realize that the thing with Misha does help her to realize that relationships can't be treated like games. Not everything can be a competition. Feelings have to be considered. So I don't think it's a route about Hiseo learning. It's a route about helping Shizune learn. So, no, I still think it's a memorable one for sure because of, I mean, you got people like Jigoro, but I do think that like message wise, it's kind of a bit of a flat one, which is fine. It's a nice one, but yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's my favorite one. I mean, I've already said what my favorites are, but the last one we have Rin. What a weird route Rin's is. You encounter Rin 4 times in her Act 1. You help her with painting once. Actually, it might be 3 times. That you help. Yeah, you help her with painting. Oh, you eat lunch with her. You help her with painting again, and then it's the festival. 4 times. But still, that's with just that ending. It's just the ending of that Act 1 is like it tells you so much because of how. Let me pull it up. I need to go back to Act 1. Here we go. It's Sunday. Here we go. Clouds in my head. Okay. Because you get in the end, because, you know, they both wake up and you like, you have Rin, just her normal aloof self, but she's like, even before, like she slowly wakes up and she just wants to keep being there. Like, Rin's most, the game always says, you know, feels like Rin is always thinking about something really different and she's always way attached. I don't think that is entirely, it's definitely true. But I think the game kind of goes like, it tries to lead you to think, oh, this is just how she is. And not something she kind of puts on. I think she's just something, because in those moments, you know, even before you really get to know her, those moments where she becomes, she's like, vulnerable is the right word for it. Like, right after she wakes up. She, like, when she doesn't want to move, she just wants to stay there. Because Rin's whole thing is that she's completely lost for her own purpose. She doesn't know what she wants to be like. Because, you know, Rin is so detached. It's hard to figure out. So, like, you're like, oh, I don't understand her, but Rin understands herself. She doesn't. Rin's whole thing is she's just on a constant search for herself. She doesn't know what she is. She's got all these people, you know, she's got that talent. It's going to be a bit of maybe a bit of a dumb comparison or a bit of a cliched comparison. I think a lot about Yusuke from Persona 5 when it comes to Rin. I think they're pretty similar when it comes down to it. And it's got the same sort of thing. Because I think Nomiya is kind of a piece of shit. And I think it's pretty apparent at the end. Nomiya is kind of a piece of shit. And I think Nomiya is a huge, huge part of why Rin is so conflicted. Because you have Nomiya, you know, she's got this, Rin has this amazing talent. She can do this, she can paint amazing things with no hands, no arms. And so she has Nomiya pulling him all around. And it's why they tell you about Sei and Nomiya's classmate who ended up killing himself. Because you see why Nomiya is acting like that's not a story about Rin. It's not a story to relate to Rin. It's a little bit, but it's not. It tells you why, like, Nomiya is the way he is. Because Nomiya are very different. Sei is fine with just giving Rin her distance. Nomiya saw, I think his whole thing is, like, he ended up losing that talent. Like, he doesn't want to lose more talent like that, so he wants to push it into the limelight. But that's not what Rin needs. But she can't explain it. Like, Rin can't. I think when it comes to it, it's not said. We only know Rin's full disability is her arms. She doesn't have them. I think it's completely fair to draw the conclusion that Rin probably has some form of autism. I think, like, somewhere on the spectrum of that. I think it's completely fair to reason that. Just because of, like, how she act. Maybe, I don't think savantism would be the right thing. But, just, like, something like that. She's got... Or is it called a personality disorder? I'm sorry, I'm really... Yeah, is it called a person? What is it called? What kind of... Where is it? Can you just, like... Can I actually just get a Wikipedia page for now? Here you go. Oh, developmental, okay. I think she might, like, some kind of developmental disorder. I don't think... I think it's a high-functioning form, but I think it's there. And I think that's something to consider, you know. Rin, she has such trouble explaining herself. She has trouble understanding herself. You can see it... Oh, I'll go show it, and... You can see it here. I mean, even in the clouds, you know, like, Rin... It's simply she's in her own world, but here... Like that. Like... It's kind of like... She doesn't understand what's happening in her own head. But she has people who want her to do all these things. And, I mean, also, I'll say Hiseo's partially at fault, because, you know, he, I mean, honestly, through no fault of his own, it can't really be helped. He develops feelings for Rin. And, like, that's really difficult for someone like Rin to deal with everything she has going on as well. And like he said, he's always chasing after Rin, because Rin is... She doesn't know anything else than just going forward. Going forward, dealing with, like, doing anything she can do. Because she has trouble, you know, her paintings are the way she tries to express her feelings. But the issue is that her paintings, she does abstraction. It's hard to figure that out. And so she is, like, in an endlessly perpetuating cycle of not being able to talk about what she wants and what she feels. And so she puts it into things she can actually do, painting. But art is such a form that people don't always understand. It's hard to understand. Everybody's going to have their own interpretations. All of that stuff. So she is... I mean, what gets said a lot is that she's in her own world. It's right. But it's not of her own choice. She's trapped in her own world. Because of a communication barrier. And the big thing with that is crucial to understanding, like, the difference between the bad and neutral and the good ending, is that you have to understand that. It's a big thing with, like, empathizing and, like, figuring out. I mean, it's hard, of course, like, with the things Rin says, you know, it's like, what does this mean? Like, what is she trying to... But it's that thinking. You have to realize how it occurs. Um, um, and I think that scene at the end of Act 3. Yeah, it's the scene at the end of Act 3, you know, where you walk in on Rin. It's another point where she's at her most vulnerable. And that's really when he said, like, the most vulnerable points are when Rin is able to describe herself, like, and think. Because Rin's able to talk about, and like, she doesn't even really make sense when she's like talking about destroying and recreating herself. There's a line in Act 3 in that scene. I'm gonna go find it. What is it called? Delirium. What are these? Okay, Delirium. Alright, so I was looking. Where is it? Okay. Later, I would come to think that this finally was the moment when Rin fully let herself go, and in one single instant destroyed and rebuilt herself, just like she had wanted. That point. Because Rin doesn't know any other way to describe herself, but she keeps getting told there's these things wrong. Like, she has to... He says, like, why aren't you more excited for this gallery? Nomi's like, why aren't you putting your all into this? Why aren't you... da-da-da-da-da? And she's like, well, I'm not the way that people want me to be. So I have to make a new me. And that's not how that works. But she doesn't know that. She can't think of anything other way than, like, dealing with these demands. And, you know, it pushes her over the edge in that delirium scene. And when she's at her absolute most vulnerable, she realizes, like, because, like, she didn't have to destroy and recreate herself. And that's what it comes down to in the good ending. To get the bad ending and the neutral ending, because Rin changing is not something that ends up being good. Either, I mean, the obvious the bad ending, which I don't think is actually as bad as the neutral ending, ends with Hiseo. It basically, like, interprets more than what he should have in the previous scene. The ending of Delirium, though. Or I don't think it's Delirium. I think it's called. I'll just go. I don't know what. What is it? Things You Hate. Yes, we'll look back through this. So they talk. They don't know how to respond to that. I mean, it's a trend with this game. Those first R18 scenes, it's like the complete spur of the moment thing, and you see those in a lot of media. It's like, oh, this spur of the moment thing, it happens. Not a lot deals with what happens after. There's no talk about what happens after that, the things that need to be talked about. And I think that's one of the things that this game does so well. It's not looking for the instant gratification, the instant satisfaction of, like, you started this relationship, nice job. You have to deal with the conflicts that come from it. You really do. You have to work through them. Nothing is going to be as easy as it's portrayed in most media. I think the thing with Katawa Shoujo is the fact that it goes about it. It shows all of the good and the bad. And I think that makes it such a wonderfully amazing, character-driven visual novel. And if we go through here, so he apologizes, and they both like it was a bad idea. Which, here we go. This ending of this. Because Rin, Hisio's thing is like before he starts to really realize, he's asking like Rin, like, what am I to you? What are we? What are your feelings? She can't answer that because she doesn't know. What was the choice on this one? I need to understand. See, the thing is like, the thing that sets this apart. He doesn't demand, he gets closer to trying to understand Rin instead of like, tell me. No, he wants her to figure out, he wants to understand. He shows that he wants to understand Rin. Yeah, she just has to, you wanted to change, you wanted to destroy yourself. You want this exhibition more than anything, right? Then do it. Because she felt that this was the thing everyone is telling her to do. She felt like she needed to do this. But I'll have nothing to do with it. And then that's the point where Rin realizes, maybe I don't have to change. Maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe instead of changing to what people want, what instead she can do is learn to work towards understanding herself instead of changing who she is before she even knows who she is. So maybe that's, maybe it's because this is the most recent route we finished, but I feel like I understand Rin's route so much more. I don't think I understood it the first time I played the game. Because then you just go back to yeah, because the turning point, you don't, because in the neutral ending, which I think is just one of the absolute worst in the game, it's so not worse in a bad way, it's painful, is that you take her back inside of the gallery. The gallery's what made her like that in the first place. And the neutral ending, Hisio doesn't realize. He doesn't realize why the problem with Rin was. So she doesn't have that self-reflective time where she realizes, first of all, she doesn't get the offer to go to a university in Tokyo. But not only that, but she has that time, she doesn't get to reflect. And Hisio doesn't understand. And so she changes, and she goes to art school in Tokyo. I think importantly, because, Rin realizes it, though. She realizes part of it. She wants people to understand how she feels. And instead of, Hisio working to feel that, what he says is that nobody will ever understand her. And that is the biggest thing. It's worse than having a yelling match and walking off. Yeah, and then, in that scene where after Nomiya yells at her, he realizes Nomiya was trying to turn her into something she didn't want to be. She wasn't ready to be. And he realized that he did the same thing in trying to force into a relationship. Then he realizes, he's got to take it slowly. With someone like Rin, you have to take it slowly. You can't rush into that quickly. And then another big thing, Rin's finally able to tell him, she was trying to people understand her since she can't use her words. And then Hiseo realizes she's been trying to reach out this entire time. But he was missing it. So it's another thing, pay attention to more than just words and actions. They don't tell you everything about a person. There's a part of it. And then, like I said, the last R18 scene of Rin's route is, I think, the most majorly impactful towards understanding the route. Because it goes in steps. And this wiki summary summarizes it perfectly. Rin discovers what it's like to not be alone. She'd never had that before. We hear one mention of Rin's parents. She never talks about them. And then, the ending. That ending, the very last scene, can really fly over your head. The biggest thing, though, is, Rin's like, I feel like I need to change when I'm with you. But he realizes that, all the things that made him angry with her, it's like she doesn't explain herself, and it's also what he realizes he likes about her. And that helps Rin. It helps Rin decide that she doesn't need to change. Instead of changing, she can grow into herself and understand herself. And that is the he asks the question at the end, are you gonna still become an artist? Rin doesn't care about that right now. She doesn't have to worry about that. And so she ignores it. And they watch the sky, and then, she ends it. What's the right word for when it feels inside your heart that everything in the world is alright? So it's Rin is... She's taken that first step to understanding herself and coming more to terms and peace with everything. And I think it's beautiful. I think that that my mind is like fully made up. Rin's route is my favorite route in this game. It's my favorite. It's the most impactful. I think Rin might be my favorite character. It's got so many lessons about... Because I didn't even talk about it. Hiseo is so self-reflective on this route. He thinks so much about how he's going to change. Spurred on by Rin, because he thinks, Rin understands herself. She's just in her own world. So that inspires him to change himself. And at the end, they're both like... They both realize it's kind of a false thing, because... in that last, Hiseo still worries about his future. He's so concerned about his future, and he can't figure out what he wants to do. And he still constantly worries about his own heart. But that is... He learns through Rin, they learn from each other. That it's okay to not understand yourself. It is okay to not understand where you're at, what you're gonna do. And they start on that process of learning from each other, learning how to grow into themselves. It's really like beautiful. The ending of Rin's Root is really, really beautiful. And I think it's got some, you have to look a bit further. But the reasoning, and the lessons that you can learn from it, if you just look a little bit beyond the surface, are really, really good. I want to read some of these. I think trying to understand Rin will only push toward a how you should be change. So I think, I actually think that even more. I think instead of trying to understand, you help her. Like, I don't know, it's... It's... Rin's Root is... It is definitely the most complex route. By a long shot. It is the most complex route in the game. With everything it tackles, everything it talks about. All of that. It is... just, it's that. It's a lot to try and contend with, and I feel like you'd have to read it a couple times and think, really get into the idea of it, and it's not one you're going to understand right away. Like a lot of the other ones, you understand it like right away. Like, yeah, it's like, this is about growing together. This is about living in the moment. This is about empathy and retrospection. It's not one of those easy themes you're going to get. And I think that's okay. But yeah, that is 100% completion of Katawa Shoujo. Lily's route, Hanako's route, Emi's route, Shizune's route, Rin's route. Our very first one, July 24th it would have been. We started that a little bit before midnight on July 24th. September 13th, probably around 1:50 a.m. That's a long time to play this game. That was a lot. 22 episodes, 22 streams. 100% completion. 100% jukebox. 100% library. 100% cinema. And you're gonna have to excuse me for this, but 100% CGs. Leaving us with this. It was a truly emotional journey. I know I talked for... it had to have been about an hour at the end there. It was a long talk about all the routes. But I think it's good to, we've talked about the theme of this game is introspection, and you think about it. I think if you can think critically about what you've played, especially in something like this, it's important. I think being able to do that is a big sign of learning. It helps you take themes away, And these are just my interpretations. You could play these routes and have completely other interpretations of them. So that's the beauty of it. But that is our emotional, long journey with Katawa Shoujo done. It was... that 22 streams is still boggling my mind. I'm immensely proud of this series. Even though some of the first episodes are very audio scuffed, I am very proud of this series. I am proud that for almost 2 months, I was able to keep the every other day thing, except for a couple breaks. I was able to do it every other day. And I want to keep that up. I want to keep having games that I play every other day. More like long form, more story based games instead of, playing Minecraft or Destiny 2 or anything like that. So I think Tuesday we'll do Persona 4 Golden. I think that is what we'll do. I kind of have to check to see if it streams well. It might ruin my computer if I try to stream it, and that would be really disappointing. But yeah. That is our Katawa Shoujo journey. I really, really do hope you enjoyed it. I hold this game so near and dear to my heart. And I do consider it one of the most, impactful things I've played. I hope that you will play the game yourself. Don't just watch me play it. Don't listen to me just ramble on about what I think the stories are about. Play it for yourself and learn it. And think about it. And I think you'll learn a lot, and I think you'll have new perspective, definitely, after it. I know I certainly do. I had new perspective back when I played it as a high school freshman, didn't know shit about the world. Now in college, I know it's much more impactful now that I know more about the world. So I very, very much hope that you had fun with this series. If you didn't get to watch all of it, it's all on YouTube. You can subscribe there at Ari of the Star, and I suppose now we can wrap up. If you enjoyed, please do leave a follow. If you're watching the VOD on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Ari of the Star. I hope you had a magnificent time with this playthrough. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you are safe. I hope you have an enjoyable day. And I hope I can see you in the next stream. Bye-bye.